There is a subtle weight that some souls carry, invisible to the naked eye but profound in its emotional geography. It is the weight of a child abandoned within oneself, a fragmented self that continues to exist in the shadowy corridors of consciousness, never fully released, never fully integrated. This child is not a memory, but a living presence, a whisper that echoes through the chambers of adult experience, a silent witness to survival's most intimate landscapes. Imagine a child who learned to disappear to survive, who understood early that visibility could mean vulnerability, that softness was a luxury too dangerous to afford. This child did not simply grow up, but transformed into an intricate survival mechanism, a psychological shapeshifter capable of becoming exactly what was needed to navigate treacherous emotional territories. The abandonment was not just external, but an internal fracturing, a profound disconnection from the most tender parts of self. The unconscious carries this abandoned child like a secret map, a complex emotional cartography where each memory is a hidden landmark, each survival strategy a carefully constructed pathway. The body becomes a living archive, storing these experiences not in words, but in muscular tensions, in the way breath catches unexpectedly, in sudden moments of inexplicable vulnerability that emerge like underground springs breaking through seemingly solid ground. And if these words awaken something inside you right now, allow yourself to respond with a small gesture of presence, maybe a like or a brief reflection. And if you feel that this journey speaks to something deep within you, subscribe so we can continue exploring these inner landscapes together. Survival demanded a particular kind of psychological alchemy. The child learned to transmute pain into protection, to transform vulnerability into an invisible armor so seamless that even the self could barely distinguish between authentic emotion and learned defense. Each interaction became a negotiation, each relationship a carefully choreographed dance where the abandoned child remained hidden behind layers of constructed resilience. The internal landscape is a complex ecosystem where different versions of self coexist. There is the visible self, competent and seemingly untouched, moving through the world with calculated precision. And then there is the hidden self, the abandoned child who continues to observe, to feel, to carry the unprocessed emotional weight of experiences too profound for words. This child exists in a perpetual state of waiting, of watching, of holding memories that have never been fully witnessed. Psychological adaptation becomes an art of extraordinary complexity. The mind creates intricate internal rooms, carefully constructed spaces where different aspects of self can exist simultaneously. Some rooms are brightly lit, filled with achievements and external success. Other rooms remain in perpetual twilight, where the abandoned child resides, holding memories like fragile artifacts, preserving a vulnerability that was never allowed full expression. The nervous system becomes a sophisticated warning network, a guardian that never truly rests. Every interaction is filtered through layers of past survival mechanisms. Trust becomes a foreign landscape, something to be carefully navigated, examined from multiple angles before any emotional terrain is allowed to be traversed. The abandoned child within carries a wisdom that transcends rational understanding, a profound comprehension of human complexity born from early experiences of survival. Each coping mechanism is a delicate thread in an intricate psychological tapestry. What appears from the outside as strength is often a complex architecture of protection, a carefully constructed narrative that allows survival while keeping the most vulnerable parts of self safely hidden. The abandoned child becomes both the keeper of pain and the source of extraordinary resilience, a silent guardian of the most intimate emotional truths. The internal landscape of survival continues to unfold like a complex manuscript written in the language of survival. Each layer reveals another depth of psychological adaptation, another room in the vast architecture of self where the abandoned child resides. The memories are not static artifacts but living entities, breathing with a pulse that connects past and present in an intricate emotional dance. Survival creates its own logic, a sophisticated system of emotional navigation that transforms pain into a kind of invisible strength. The abandoned child learns to become transparent, to read emotional landscapes with a precision that defies ordinary perception. Every gesture, every interaction becomes a carefully choreographed performance where vulnerability is concealed beneath layers of learned protection. The body speaks a language more profound than words could ever articulate. Muscle memories carry the weight of unspoken experiences, storing trauma not as narrative but as a visceral landscape of tension and release. The nervous system becomes a complex network of warning signals, transforming every potential emotional encounter into a carefully mapped terrain of potential threat and potential safety. If you feel these insights stirring something within you, share your voice and support this space with a like. These reflections help others find their way through the same shadows. And if you wish to keep walking with us through these deeper layers of the mind, join us by subscribing. Psychological fragmentation becomes a survival art form. The self learns to divide, to create internal spaces where different aspects of experience can coexist without threatening the delicate balance of protection. Some parts remain hypervigilant, perpetual guardians monitoring potential emotional dangers. Other parts learn to become fluid, to shift and adapt with a chameleonic precision that allows continued survival. The abandoned child within carries a profound wisdom that exists beyond rational understanding. This internal fragment holds the purest essence of emotional truth, a part of self that was forced to become invisible but never truly disappeared. It observes, it remembers, it preserves the most tender aspects of emotional experience that were too vulnerable to be expressed in the moment of survival. Defense mechanisms evolve like intricate biological systems, each adaptation a response to complex emotional environments. What once served as protection becomes a sophisticated internal architecture, a set of psychological mechanisms so nuanced that the line between survival and authentic experience becomes beautifully blurred. The self becomes a master of transformation, capable of navigating the most challenging emotional landscapes with extraordinary resilience. Trust becomes a foreign country, its borders carefully guarded by the internal mechanisms developed through years of survival. Relationships are not simple encounters but complex negotiations, intricate dances where the abandoned child watches from internal shadows, simultaneously protecting and yearning for connection. Each interaction becomes a delicate balance between vulnerability and protection, between the desire for authentic connection and the deeply ingrained need for safety. The internal world is a theater of unspoken narratives, where different aspects of self perform their carefully rehearsed roles. Some characters wear masks of apparent strength, while others remain hidden in the backstage areas of consciousness, holding the most tender, most vulnerable emotional truths. The drama plays out in subtle gestures, in moments of unexpected vulnerability, in the way the body remembers what the mind struggles to comprehend. In the deepest caverns of consciousness, where shadows intertwine with the most primal aspects of being, the abandoned child begins its most profound confrontation. The internal landscape trembles with an intensity that defies external perception, a silent earthquake of emotional reckoning that has been building through years of carefully constructed survival. The confrontation is not a battle, but a profound meeting of fragmented selves. Years of protection begin to dissolve, revealing the intricate emotional geography that has been carefully maintained. Each defense mechanism becomes transparent, each protective layer revealing the tender vulnerability that has been waiting to be witnessed. The abandoned child emerges not as a wounded fragment, but as a source of extraordinary wisdom, a keeper of profound emotional truths. Survival leaves its mark in the most subtle of spaces. The nervous system, once a hypervigilant guardian, begins to recognize the difference between actual threats and remembered dangers. Muscles that have held decades of tension start to release their silent stories, allowing a new kind of breathing to emerge. The internal landscape shifts, creating space for something beyond mere survival. The most profound moments of healing occur in absolute silence. Here, in the deepest chambers of consciousness, the abandoned child and the adult self begin a delicate dialogue. No words are spoken, yet volumes of understanding pass between these fragmented aspects of self. The pain that once demanded invisibility now demands to be seen, to be acknowledged, to be integrated. Emotional pain is not a linear narrative but a complex ecosystem. Each memory becomes a living entity, each survival strategy a carefully constructed ecosystem of protection. The internal world reveals itself as a sophisticated landscape where vulnerability and strength are not opposing forces, but intricate dance partners in the complex choreography of healing. The body becomes a profound witness to this internal transformation. Breath deepens, muscles release generations of held tension. The nervous system begins to recalibrate, learning to distinguish between the ghosts of past survival and the potential of present experience. Each cellular memory carries a story of extraordinary resilience, of a self that learned to transform pain into a kind of profound wisdom. Psychological boundaries become fluid, permeable membranes that allow for a more authentic exchange between different aspects of self. The abandoned child is no longer a fragment to be hidden, but a source of profound insight. The protective mechanisms that once served survival now reveal themselves as intricate works of psychological art, testaments to human capacity for adaptation and transformation. In this moment of profound introspection, the fragmented self begins to recognize its own extraordinary strength. The survival mechanisms that were once seen as weakness now reveal themselves as complex survival strategies, as profound acts of self-preservation. Each coping mechanism becomes a thread in an intricate tapestry of resilience, each moment of protection a testament to the human capacity for endurance. The internal landscape breathes with a new rhythm, a subtle but profound transformation occurring in the most intimate spaces of consciousness. The abandoned child and the adult self move closer, no longer separated by the need for protection, but united in a deeper understanding of human complexity. Healing emerges not as a destination, but as a continuous journey of profound transformation. The internal landscape begins to breathe with a newfound rhythm, where fragmented parts of self recognize each other not as strangers, but as intricate components of a resilient whole. The abandoned child, once forced into invisibility, now becomes a source of profound wisdom, a keeper of the most tender emotional truths. The process of integration is a delicate dance of compassion. Each fragment of self that was compelled to hide now receives permission to exist, to speak, to be witnessed. The internal narrative transforms from a story of survival to a testament of extraordinary resilience. Pain becomes not a limitation, but a portal of deeper understanding, a complex emotional geography that holds the most profound insights about human experience. Psychological boundaries dissolve, creating a more fluid internal landscape. What were once carefully guarded rooms become open spaces where memories can breathe, where pain can be acknowledged without consuming the entire consciousness. The defense mechanisms transform from rigid walls into flexible membranes, allowing a deeper, more authentic connection with the self and with others. If you feel that this story helped you see your own inner landscape more clearly, offer a like and share your thoughts. And if you want this space to remain part of your journey ahead, subscribe. Together we continue the path of understanding, healing, and awakening. Transformation occurs in the most subtle of moments. It is not a dramatic revelation, but a gentle awakening, a gradual recognition that the abandoned child was never truly lost, but waiting to be integrated. The internal landscape begins to bloom with a newfound softness, a compassionate understanding that transcends the old narratives of pain and protection. The body, which has been a silent keeper of memories, begins to release its held tensions. Muscles that were perpetually braced for survival start to find a new rhythm, a more relaxed state of being. The nervous system learns to distinguish between actual threats and remembered dangers. Breath becomes deeper, more expansive, carrying with it the promise of healing and integration. Forgiveness emerges not as a singular act, but as a continuous process of understanding. Forgiveness of the self, of the circumstances that demanded extraordinary survival, of the parts of self that were forced to fragment. Each moment of compassion becomes a healing balm, a gentle touch that acknowledges the profound journey of survival and transformation. The final integration is a sacred process of reunification. The fragmented parts of self begin to recognize each other not as enemies, but as different expressions of an extraordinary survival narrative. The abandoned child, the protective guardian, the wounded self, the resilient self, all find a place of coexistence, of mutual understanding, of profound respect. In this moment of profound healing, a new narrative emerges. No longer defined by survival, but by the extraordinary capacity for transformation. The psychological landscape becomes a testament to human resilience, to the profound ability to not just endure, but to find beauty, wisdom, and deep compassion in the most challenging of internal journeys. The path forward is not about erasing the past, but about honoring the extraordinary strength that allowed survival. Each scar becomes a story of resilience, each moment of pain transformed into a portal of deeper understanding. The self emerges not broken but profoundly whole, carrying within it the extraordinary wisdom of survival, of healing, of human complexity. If something in these words stirred a truth inside you, don't ignore it. Follow the channel and continue this inner journey with me. You were never meant to walk it alone.